Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach and congratulations on buying your first Rotary vehicle. It's going to be a long journey and it's going to be a very fun journey, and I'm super glad that you have now joined the Mazda Rotary community. First and foremost, if you didn't watch my last video on how to buy a Rotary car, I'd highly recommend it. Or I would highly recommend watching my video of all the different parts of the Rotary engine, because the first thing you should do after you bought the engine is you should understand how the engine works and how the car works. So that's very important if you don't know that already, but when you buy one, I hope that you already do know. So once you have your Rotary car, make the plan of if you're going to use the stock OMP pump to put oil into the housing, or if you're going to use something called premix. Now there's a lot of forums and a lot of debates about premix and how much you should use if your OMP is working or not, but it is a good idea to premix if the OMP isn't working. Premix, like I said in the last video, helps lubricate the apex seals inside the housing just to keep from your engine blowing. One of the most important things with a Rotary is the temperature. For the love of God, let the car warm up before you start wailing on it. If you bought an old 12A, awesome, love 12As, they have a choke that you actually pull out, and the choke will pull itself in when it's warm enough. Let the choke pull itself in before you start ripping on it, or even driving it for that matter, because that will really help save the life of your engine. If you start it up immediately and you're wailing on it when it's not warm enough, it's gonna be bad news, I promise you. Maybe not one time if you do it, maybe not 2 times if you do it, but if you keep doing it, you will harm your engine. That being said, do not let your Rotary get too hot. That doesn't happen when you're just regularly driving it. If you're really beating on it, which I'm talking like a racetrack or holding it at high RPM, and you see that temperature gauge start spiking up, let off. If you overheat your Rotary engine, you'll pop coolant seals, which are little seals that go around the rotor housing, and you're going to have coolant just pouring into your housing, and that means a rebuild for your engine. So unfortunately, if you overheat a Rotary too bad and these seals pop, you're going to have to do a rebuild. That's just it. So if you see your Rotary starting to run hot, let it cool off. And that's also another good modification that you can do, is a better cooling system. I'm doing one on my FB right now, just a modified higher flow cooling system to make sure those temperatures stay low and you don't pop any of the seals. If you plan on driving your Rotary in the winter time, make sure you don't crank it too much with the gas on. And I want to make a video about this later, but there's a way that you can pull the fuse and continue to crank so there's not gas just pouring into the housing. Rotaries will flood super easily in the cold. I did a whole video about it with my 12A. I kept flooding it. You foul the spark plugs, and they're not cheap to replace. They're like $7 or $8 a plug, and there's 4 of them. So just be mindful of that. Also, I've heard a lot with the RX-8, but all Rotaries, they run really rich in the cold, so if you turn them on, run them for 2 minutes, and then turn them right back off, you're also going to flood the engine. So be mindful of that. When you turn them on in the wintertime, let them run for a while, just so they're up to operating temperature and it's all good so you don't flood your engine. Another thing that's important is to not hold the car over its redline. Now, that's pretty standard. You shouldn't do that in any car. But Rotaries really like revving. If you've ever driven a Rotary, and I'm sure you have driven your Rotary, rev it up. They just love to rev up and down all day, but that doesn't mean you should hold it at the very top. It's the equivalent of screaming at the top of your lungs for like an hour. Like, it's just not good to do. Other than that, when the engine is treated with respect, when you take care of it, you make sure it's getting enough oil and lubrication, as long as you're keeping the temperature in the good mid-range. It's just like any other sports car. If you've never owned a sports car or anything rear-wheel drive, take it easy in the rain, take it easy in the snow, because that back end will want to kick out. Luckily for me, when I learned to drive on a 2-wheel drive pickup truck. So when I felt the back end of the RX-7 kick out, it was totally normal to me. And you learn to control it. So I would actually recommend, if you're going to drive it in the snow, go to an open parking lot, kind of feel how the back end kicks out, and they're pretty easy to snap back in line, way easier than a 19-foot long pickup truck. So just get used to that. It's like any other rear-wheel drive car. I always see Corvettes around my neighborhood in the rain just spinning tire. Just get used to that, and other than that, you know, it's a sports car. It's just like any other sports car in that way besides the engine. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative, and if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave it in the comment section down below. I'd be happy to answer the question. So again, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care.